Okay, now we are ready. So welcome everyone. Today we are in last session of the Terraform with Azure trainings. So we mostly covered all the subjects, but we just need to look at a little bit advanced functions, let's call, which is the loops. So today we're gonna look at the loops, and also today I'm gonna show you how we can deploy our Terraform codes with the Azure DevOps. If you remember from our last session, I explained about the Terraform authentications. So one for the CLI authentication, the other ones it was the with the managed identities authentications. But today, in the Terraform with Azure DevOps subjects, we're gonna look at the service connections. So for this one, we need to do some some basic configuration or the basic authentication for the Azure DevOps your Azure environment. So first of all, I'm gonna show this one, and then we will have some repo for our Terraform codes, and then we're gonna create some release pipeline, and we're going to deploy our Terraform codes to our Azure environments. So for this one, of course, we have to use some the backend storage because, as you know, we cannot use this local state file. For this one, we have to use the remote state file, which is the Azure Blob storage. So we will define this one, and also we will define, service connection, and after that, we're going to deploy our Terraform codes to the Azure DevOps environment. So first, look at the Terraform loops. For what is the loops and when we can use? Actually, you can think about the loops can take complex code and turn it into something clean, simple, and easy to understand. Because when you need to, for example, when you need to write or maybe deploy a multiple resource, for example, 5 VMs, 6 VM, 10 VMs, normally you have to be copy maybe and pass them many times, and you will have the huge one main TF file. So rather than this one, so you can use the loops. You can use the loops functions. And when you use this one, your code's more clean, more easy, and more understandable. So with a few lines of code, you can scale and streamline your infrastructure. So loops are widely used in the Terraform community, and you can make a module dynamics if you want. So for example, as I said, a virtual machines module can use loops or contain multiple IP addresses to deploy a multiple disk if you need it. So using loops in Terraform gives your codes a cleaner look and follow, the program language idiom which they call the dry. So your Terraform code could be dry, which is do not repeat yourself. It's a programming principle. So, and where the same concept are not repeated your Terraform configuration. So let's do an example about this one. And there are too many loops, by the way. You can use the count, you can use the map, you can use the for each. But I would like to show some of them and maybe the useful ones. So, and as I mentioned earlier, all the times, so if you want to go to deep dive about this one, so please go to the HashiCorp websites, and you can find the many example in there. So let me open my Terraform environment, and let's say open folder, go to desktop, and let's say, for example, lab 11. Okay, so I think you see my Terraform. Sorry, VS Code, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, let's build our variables. So variables.pf file. And in this variable, first of all, let's define our location. And in here, we can say some description, for example, the Azure region, and then we can define type. Of course, will be the string, and then let's say default, which is the North Europe. So let's create a, this will be a storage account deployment. So let's create a variable for storage accounts. And let's say description, let's say a map of storage accounts, names, and their account types. So we're gonna use string, but this string will be the map type. So type map string, and after that I will define some the key and the values. So this key and values will be in the default section. So let's say, for example, OND, BGR, STR, Terraform 01. This will be our storage account name, and this will be locally redundant storage. And the second one, let's copy, and this one, sorry. But this time, this will be geo-redundant storage, and this will be read access geo-redundant storage. I think array. Okay, it must be like this. So as you can see, we create a map string in here, and in this map string, we define three storage names as a key, and then three account type as a value. So we're gonna use this one in our main TF now. So let's go to create a main TF file, and let's build our Terraform required providers. Azure RM. Okay, and then here, let's say provider Azure RM features. Okay, now we can create our resource group, Azure RM resource group. So let's call RG. And in here, let's call name lab 11 RG. And the location will be var dot location, because we have variable in here as a location, so we can use this one. So now we can create our storage accounts. Let's say Azure RM storage account. By the way, you can see this gray one, I think so. This is this called VS Code AI. So I just, registered this VS Code AI preview version. So if you have GitHub, so you can sign in and you can get this one. So as you can see, it's automatically fill the code. So it's really helpful. and the typing a code. So let's say this one strond is a name. And now we can write our code. So first of all, because we are using map string loops, so let's use the for each. And then this for each will be the var dot storage account. So in the loops, I'm gonna use storage account variable, this name. And after that, I can define name. Name will be each dot key. So names will be this variable, the keys, which is the 01, 02, 03. And then account tier, let's say standard. And then account replication type. This time I'm gonna use this variable's value, which is the locally redundant, geo redundant, and read access geo redundant. And of course, I need to define the resource group. Resource group will be Azure RM resource group .rg.name. And the final one, I need to define location, Azure RM resource group rg dot location. Okay, then. So let's save all and go to terminal. So let's say Terraform init. And then Terraform plan. So what does it like? Let's check. Has not been declarated. Storage accounts. I've just forgot S. So let's save again. Oops. And Terraform init and Terraform plan. Yes, it says it will be create 4 resources. So let's check. You can see the one will be okay. Let's deploy, and after that, let's look at this one. Terraform apply. Say yes. By the way, when this deploying, just give me a 2 minutes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think I disconnect. Give me a second. I'm going to share again. So this one, yes. Yes, deployment completed. So let's check our environments. So I just go to the portal and let's look at our resource group. So top level here, and we have 3 storage accounts as we define in the code. So if we go to the storage account, this one locally redundant, and this one geo redundant, and this one read access geo redundant. So if we didn't use this loops, so our codes normally look like this one, right? So what we should do, we have to maybe copy this one and paste here how many we want. So we have to create a multiple, the Azure storage account. So our code will be more complex. So rather than this one, so we can use just this, the loops in here. So let's look at, for example, another demo. So let's say lab 12, this one. And then, so we can, for example, create VM in here. So let's create variables dot df. So this time I'm going to use the count. So let's say variable will be the VM count, let's say. And in here, let's write description, the number of the VM to create, and type will be the number, of course. And so default will be, let's say, 4. So I would like to create a 4 VM. So let's say the variable location. So, and then type string, and the default will be the North Europe. And then, of course, this will be a VM. So I need to create variable admin username. So just type string. I don't want to type in this variable, so let's do it. Just let's use just the type. So variable, I'm going to use, of course, the admin password. And here, so the type string. So because of this password, I will use sensitive, which is true. So this is our variables, and let's create a main.tf file, main.tf, and we're gonna use the Terraform record version will be this guy, 0.13. And then record providers. Okay, let's say 2. And record, sorry, the provider will be the Azure RM. Now we can create our resource group, Azure RM resource group. Let's call this one RG. And so the name will be the demo 12 RG, and the location will be the var location. Now we need to create, of course, VNet. So Azure RM virtual network. So let's call this one the VNet. And the name will be, let's say, demo 12 VNet. Address space will be 10.0.0.0/16. Location just need to be closed. This one, yeah. RG location, and resource group name will be the Azure RM resource group RG dot name. Okay, this is our VNet. So of course we need to create a subnet, Azure RM subnet. Let's call this one also subnet. And the name will be demo 12 subnet. And then address prefix. Let's copy this one and use 24 here. And also let's copy the location and the resource group. Actually, we don't need location. Why we need location? Because it will be in the VNet. We just need to type here virtual network name, Azure RM virtual network VNet.name. Okay, then. So now we can go to create the VM and VM dependencies, which is, for example, the first one, network interface. So let's say Azure RM network interface, and let's call this one unique. So if I go to the name and define the normal name, so it will not enough for me because we will create 4 VMs. So because of that, we need at least 4 network interfaces. So I have to use in here count dot var dot VM count. So I need to use this number in here. And after that, of course, every name must be different. So let's say the demo name will be demo 12.nig, and then we can merge with this one with the count index. So it can be 0, 1, 2, 3, something like that. But for this one, we have to use dollar and curly brackets, and let's say count dot index. Okay, then we can go to the location and the resource group. Let's copy. Here. And of course, I need to come here and I have to define IP configuration. The name, let's use this one. And subnet ID, Azure RM subnet.id, and the private IP address allocation will be the dynamic. Okay, this is our network interface. So let's go to create final resource, which is the VM. So the resource, Azure RM virtual machine. So let's call to VM in here. And of course, I have to use the count again, which is the var.vm -count. And so the name will be demo 12 VM $count dot index. And location resource group will be the same. So I have to just attach the network interface. Network interface IDs will be Azure RM network interface dot NIC, because of the name is NIC, but I have multiple network interface, so I have to use count dot index and dot ID in here. So the VM size I need to define, of course. So I think I can define standard. Let's create a small one, B2S. So storage image reference I have to define. So the publisher will be the canonical, okay, Ubuntu server, okay, and the latest one. So let's create a storage OS disk, sorry. In here, let's define storage OS disk, and name will be, let's say, OS disk $count dot index, and then caching, let's say read write, create options, let's say from image, and manage this type standard locally redundant storage is okay for us. So, and the final one, OS profile. computer name. We can use this one, I believe so. Yeah. And then admin username. We can use the var.admin username. And for the password, admin password, we can use the var.admin password. OS profile, Linux config, and the password authentication disable will be the false. I think we are okay, so let's try to deploy. And let's go to the terminal. Let's say Terraform init. And let's go Terraform plan. So it asked the admin password because if you remember, we didn't define any default in here. So let's say the password onto this one, and the admin user will be the admin on that. This looks okay, so let's deploy our code with the Terraform apply. Passwords, let's define it. 1, 2, and admin and dash. So let's say yes. So let's look at here. Yes. So it's finished. Yes, it's completed. So when we go to our resource group, you can see in here 4 VM, 1 VNet, of course, 1 subnet, and 4 VM in here, VMs in here with a the count index. And for the network interfaces, 4 of them, and the OS disk you can see in here. So yeah, as I said, you can use loops for your Terraform environment for the make it more easy, make it more the readable, understandable. Because if you are not use the loops, so for that kind of example, so you have to type 4 times network interface, 4 times OS disk, and 4 times the VM resources. So, and if you think your environment will be so more complex, so maybe you need a multiple firewall, will be that's multiple, I don't know, some SQL DB, web app, maybe the VMs. So it's hard to be right, all the codes in the one main TF files. So for this kind of scenario, so you have to think about the more the easy codes. So how we can write it. So we can use loops from our the previous lessons. You can think about how we can use the modules, or maybe you just need to look type that maybe the conditional logics. This all the things actually for make it a easy create codes for the Terraform codes. So normally, as you know, that we have the multiple infrastructure as a code tools on the market. So of course, we are just talking about the Terraform, but if we think about just the Microsoft sites, we can use also the ARM templates and the Bicep to another one. ARM templates normally we cannot use that kind of the loops, or we can, but it's not a easy to create the loops, conditional logics or modules. For example, modules is not supported in the ARM, but Microsoft released a new infrastructure as a code tool, which is called Bicep. So it also supports this kind of activities, but just for the Azure environments. So it's not support the multiple vendors, or it's not support the on-premise environment. So there is no provider section in the biceps. So it's the biceps provider just only the Azure. So but in here, so for example, you can create your own provider, or maybe you can use the existing provider, which is the Azure, AWS, Google, I don't know, VMware, Strix, or something like that. And maybe also you can use this one. Give me a second. I'm gonna show you Terraform provider random. Maybe, yeah. This is another provider which is called random. So, for example, give me the second. Maybe I can find it. Let's say, yeah, in here. So, for example, when you need to create a random, I don't know, number, random name, random, I don't know, password, maybe the username. So you can use the random as a provider. But for this one, of course, you need to define in your code in this section. So you need to come here and you can say in random. And after that, you can use this random section. Maybe you can create a random password. Maybe you can create a random name, random username. And after that, if you are use the output.tf file, so maybe after that you can get this one as an output, you know. So, but like this example, Azure, Terraform supports multiple providers, but with the bicep at the ARM templates, you just need to use your Azure as a provider. So it's not support to AWS or something. In the AWS, I think there's another one which is called Cloud Foundation or something like that. I'm not sure 100%, but I think they have also their infrastructure as a code tool. But as I said, you know, the Terraform, which is the popular one. So maybe the final section I can tell something about Terraform with Azure. So normally in our demos and in our example, so we look at to deploy the Terraform codes from our local environment, you know, maybe in your development the machines, you know. So you can deploy from your code with this Azure Terraform CLI. For this one, we have to authenticate from your CLI, Azure CLI, or you can use manage identity for the authentication. But in this scenario, we can deploy our codes with the Azure DevOps in a release pipeline. So, for example, in the you can see in the slides. So you just need to, of course, pull or your codes or push your codes to the Azure repo, and then you can create your release pipeline, and then you can deploy your code to your Azure environment. But of course, for this one, we need to create a service connection between your Azure DevOps project and the Microsoft Azure subscription. And of course, we have to use the storage account for your remote state file because we cannot use the local state file. And of course, it's not a recommended one because remote storage is, of course, the more secure and more reliable version. And after that, we can create our resource. But in this, of course, release pipeline, there have in the release pipeline, you can find more benefits and more features in here. You know, you can, for example, use some gates, or maybe you can use some approval before deploy or the post deployment sections. So and you can get some, you know, maybe the service connection with your I don't know tickets environment. For example, when you create a new code and they pull or push this code to your repo, and when you trigger to the release pipeline. So first of all, of course, needs to get an approval from maybe the Azure admin or maybe the system admin or the network admin or the maybe change manager. And this automatically create the tickets for your, I don't know, for maybe the service now. And when they approve, and after that, your code will start and run, deploy the codes to your Azure environment. And after that, you can get your you know, the whatever you want, I mean, in your codes. So after that, maybe you can get the post approval also. So you can create this kind of the pipeline in your Azure DevOps environment. But of course, for this one, you need the proper DevOps organization. I have a test environment in here, so maybe we can use this one. So let's go to the DevOps organization, and I can create a DevOps project in here. So this is my organization, and I can create, for example, demo 13, and let's say the create project. So first of all, I have to create a source connection in here. So where is this one? Source connection. So this service connection will be the Azure Resource Manager, and it's automatically will be great for me. I said yes, and Terraform demo 13 service connection name. It's getting my subscription in here. I'm gonna choose the correct one, which is I will use this one. Yes, sponsorship. I don't use the resource group because I will connect to all subscription level. So let's create the service connection account. Okay, it's ready. So I think we can go back and then we can deploy our codes in the repo. And also after that, we can create a release pipeline. So first of all, let's build our repo. Let's create a new repo, which is called Terraform. It's automatically create a readme.md file. And then I can go here, open an empty Visual Studio Code. And then I can come here in the search and type here git clone. After that, I can go back to my repo and clone my repo, copy the command line. Come here, type again, git clone, and the post URL in here, and press enter. So it asked me about the repository destination. So let's create here lab 13 and select the repository. So yes, it says open new one. Let's bring me a readme.md file in here. Same like my Terraform environment, Terraform repo, sorry. So let's go to my codes and let's create variables.tf and main.tf. So let's use the same guy in here. So for the variables, I'm gonna use this one. And for the main TF, I will copy my previous example and the save all. I just need to be, of course, commit this code. So I just say Terraform codes and commit it. And of course, sync the change. Okay, it's look like the sync now. So let's go back to our environment. Yes, now we got the main TF and also the variables TF files. So our repo is ready. Now we can go to the release pipeline. But before this one, I just want to go back and I just want to delete this ones because, or maybe rather than this one, I just come here and let's say edit. Let's call this one because I need to change the storage account name. It should be a unique. Must be a unique, not should, sorry. And then, of course, main TF, I need to come here. So let's say demo 13 RG. Okay, then. So let's go to the pipelines and go to the release pipeline and click a new pipeline. So as I said, I will not create a YAML. So I just use the portal. So for this one, I will go to the empty job and let's say the Terraform deployment. And first of all, we need to add our repo in here. So our repo is demo 13 project, sorry, and demo 13, and repo is Terraform. So we're gonna use the default branch and the latest version of the branch. So let's say add. So of course we will have a couple of tasks or job in here. So our first job will be Terraform install, and then we will have one for initialize, one for plan, and one for apply. So for the latest version we're gonna use, of course, for the Terraform, so we can keep this one default. And then we can go to the first job, which will be init. So let's call this one Azure RM init. This is our configuration directory, and we need to show our subscription. So you can see, you can show directly your subscription, or we already create a service connection, and this service connection is connect to our subscription. So I don't need to show this ones. So I just select my service connection, and then of course in here I need to show the backend, which is the remote storage. So my remote storage sit in here, resource group name TF state 01. So I can show in here TF state 01. Where is that? Here. Yeah. And my storage account TF states blah blah here. And my container is TF state. And as a key, I have to show TF state file. So let's delete this one and upload an empty TF state file. So desktop, it must be in here. Yeah. Let's say uploads. So my TF state file name is demo.terraform.tfstate. This one is ready. So let's go to Azure RM. This will be plan. So because of that, I'm going to use the plan in here. So I just show the subscription, and then I will go to the third one. This will be apply. So my command will be the apply, and the subscription will be my service connection. So looks like we are ready. Let's save it. And then create release, Terraform deployment. So let's say create. So, and then let's go to deploy. So we got a problem in here. Can't find the local string for key in plan. Terraform plan failed. So what's we have problem in here? So let's check our release. Okay, the plan, command plan. Okay. So look like okay. Just want to be double sure. So let's go redeploy again. What does it say? So Alfonso, what you ask? You got the AWS provider in the required provider and not the Azure RM. Where's that? In the previous AWS, I don't have. I have just the Azure. Where's the AWS? In here. Ah, this one. Yeah. Why not? Okay, AWS. So normally it's use the latest one, so it's not correct, of course. Sorry, must be Azure RM. Sorry, my mistake. But we got error in here. So what's this error? So normally initializes Terraform plan failed. So our code has a problem. Let's look at Terraform. Okay, demo str. Okay. And the variables look like okay. Because it's very easy one. Pipeline, the release. No, we use this one for our local environment, so it should be work. It doesn't matter. So let's go to the edit again. And the latest one we use, okay. Initialize, look like okay, the plan. So let's change this one. Let's save it. Give me a second. You said maybe. Let's try this one first of all. The pipeline, the release, this guy, and redeploy again. Yeah, I think because of we use a different repo. So I have to show the exact directory. So because I didn't specify and we got an error about this one. So now it's working. So it's finished succeed. Let's go back and click the demo 13RG in here. Let's refresh it. Yes, our storage in here. I just want to check activity log. Let's look at the release pipeline again. So first of all, we just define our Terraform repo, and then we just first install the Terraform. This is the latest version, and then I put the 3 jobs in here. One for the initialize, and initialize. I showed, of course, the reboot state files, and in plan I just add the plan command, and in apply I just add the apply commands. But for this one, directory normally went to the default one, so I just show this guy in here and also in here. And after that, when I run to Terraform in the release pipeline, I got my storage accounts and the resource. By the way, if you go to the activity log, you can see your in here. You can see the event detail, so which is your service connection account. So, for example, project settings, service connection. This is our service connection. So this is our, sorry, maybe here. This is our service connection accounts. In here, you can see this guy created this resource group and also the storage accounts. So of course, this is the simple one. So for example, the Azure DevOps deployment release, or maybe the CI/CD deployment, of course, is not just for this kind of basic deployment or the build. So normally we use the big pipeline. For example, if you have a multiple environment staging, the UAT, or I don't know, some test, maybe non-prod or the prod environment. So you can create the big pipeline, and when you create, you can use the YAML for this one. YAML codes. YAML code is look like a XML and the JSON file. So you can define for your every stage in this YAML file. So for example, UAT stage, for example, prod stage, for example, test or the non-prod environment. So, and of course, you can use some of the value variable or the values in the Azure DevOps. So you can call these values, or you can call these variables in the Azure DevOps itself. So for example, you can define the password, you can define the connection strings in your Azure DevOps environment. It's good because of rather than the put in your TF files, because the TF files is right in your state file. So maybe someone can access your state file and they can look at, your password or the connection strings and whatever. So as I said, so the pipelines is good for your create the multiple the environments, and then you can use for your the every kind of environment at the organization also. You just need to create, of course, the Azure DevOps organization, and then you can create a multiple the project in this organization. So of course there's you need some licensing, but I think you can use, I don't know, I don't have so much knowledge about the license, but I think you can use some basic license in here, or maybe the Visual Studio license. So if your company has, of course, this one, or maybe in your test environment, if you have the Visual Studio license, so you can use the Azure DevOps with your Visual Studio license, and then you can test for this ones, or the Terraform codes. Of course, it supports the multiple language or the multiple the application deployment type. So it's not just for the infrastructure build. It can be used for the application deployment, or maybe the database deployment, or maybe data warehouse deployment, or maybe analytics deployment. You can use for every kind of deployment. You can use the Azure DevOps for your every kind of deployment also. And there is another marketplace inside in the Azure DevOps. For example, when I create a release pipeline in here, I just come here, and so I just add the Terraform in here. Maybe in your test environment you cannot find this one. You just need to add this Terraform in your organization, or maybe in your project. So it's a free, by the way. You just need to go to the market, Terraform marketplace, and you can add these ones. Okay, then I think, yeah, we complete all the sections. So our demos is complete too. Do you have any question? No worries. Thank you so much for joining this training, guys. And if you have any question, just ping me. You have my email address. You can reach me whenever you want. Just the Azure related question, please. So if I have, I can find, of course, the answer. I can reply to you, and I try to help. And by the way, after this course, I have a couple, the couple of questions about the Terraform exam. So I found from my friend, and I will just need to be put in some the Word files because it's just a screenshot, So I'm gonna share with you. So if you would like to get this exam, and I can share with you guys, and you can look at this exam questions, and maybe it can be helpful for your, for passing the exam. It's not so much as 20, 30 questions, but at least you can understand, what kind of question is in there. So as I said, it's not so much hard, but for the passing the exam, just the Terraform code knowledge is not enough. So you just need to look at little bit Terraform cloud, or maybe it can be called a HashiCorp cloud. So, and some topologies, it's called this is the Sentinel. So you just need to look at this one. But for maybe I can share you link. Just Terraform Associate. Just if you go to the Azure Corp website, and where's this one? Terraform certification, prepare the exam. So this study guide is really, really great. So you can get the information about the foundation of infrastructure as a code. And then you can look at the Terraform fundamentals. And you can look at the workflow. And also you can look at the subcommands. So for example, we didn't look at some troubleshooting, debugging, because it's not, our in scope. But you can look at these ones. And also you can look at the little bit advanced use and create modules, and then read-write configuration, manage state, which we mentioned, the local state, remote state. This one, understand the Terraform cloud. We can look at, as I said, the Terraform cloud, Sentinel, the policies, the private registry, or something like that. So yeah, if you read these ones, and some of them is video, some of them is articles, I think it will really helpful, because I just studied these ones, and after that, I passed the exam. I can share you in a chat. I think maybe it can be helpful for you. Okay, thank you so much. I just stopped the record.